So today we are going to be making meatloaf. This is the Palmer House meatloaf that was Andy Rooney's favorite meatloaf. Anytime he came in, this is what he ordered. And it is a very simple recipe, as you will see. What we're going to start with first is an onion. So we've got one medium onion in here caramelizing, just a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon of olive oil. And then to that we are going to add our garlic, and then give it a little stir. And then let that come together for about a minute so you can start smelling the garlic. The nice thing about this meatloaf is that you can change up the ingredients. If you don't like green peppers, you can add red. If you don't like red, you can add poblanos, which are my favorite. But today we're doing the traditional recipe, and then I'll tell you how you can do some variations on it when we get it in the oven. So from the onion and the garlic, we're going to add equal parts of celery and red and green pepper, and also green onion. And this is the base for the meatloaf. This is we're going to add the wet ingredients into this. This is going to caramelize up nice and get really nice and sweet, and then we're going to add some other things that is going to bring it all together. Cool it down, and then we're going to add it to the meat with some bread crumbs and some eggs. Like I said, different types of peppers. Adding just about a tablespoon of butter. Let that come together. That's going to cook for a couple minutes. The nice thing about this meatloaf is that not only I like the crunchy ingredients, the crunchy vegetables. So if you like it softer and you like it more cooked through, you can let it cook a little bit longer. Right now, at this point, I like to add the spices and just let it cook a couple more minutes because it's going to continue the cook time in the oven. Fresh bay leaves go in. Salt, pepper, white pepper, cumin, smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, ancho chili, and probably one of the most important ingredients is fresh grated nutmeg. So we're going to add all of that in and let that get happy with the vegetables in there. So we're going to let that cook a couple minutes. Okay, so we got the vegetables and all the spices in, the bay leaves. This has been cooking for about 2 minutes, and it's still nice and crispy, but coming together. You can see how the herbs are going to start sticking to the bottom and all around the side. That's what we want. We are going to put in a little bit of evaporated milk. You can use cream here if you'd like. I have found that this just works best. It's not too heavy, but it gives that richness and it makes a nice base. And then to that, I am adding a little local hot sauce. This is from Petaluma, Marin area. I was just up there, and beautiful little hot sauce. You can use Tabasco here. You've got white pepper and cayenne in there already, so depending on how spicy you like your meatloaf, you can add about a tablespoon or so. I'm going to add some sweet. So we are using plain old ketchup. You can use tomato puree if you'd like. I have tried using variations, and ketchup is the best addition here because it has the sugars in it. If you want to make your own ketchup, great. Otherwise, you can use just traditional organic or not bottled ketchup. It has the sugars in it. So we're gonna let this cook down for about 5 minutes, and then as soon as it cools, I'm gonna put it on a sheet pan, let it cool down in the refrigerator, take out the bay leaves, and then we'll come back and show you how to mix it up with the meat and get it in the oven. About 2 pounds of grass-fed, grass-finished beef and about a pound of pork. And you can use variations on the meat. Again, you can use turkey meat, you can add lamb into this, which is really nice. In this case, I'm sticking pretty much to the recipe as it was that I made it exactly at the Palmer House. Again, this was Andy Rooney's favorite meatloaf. This is all he ordered when he came in. I knew to always have it on hand and ready to bake fresh for him. He always wanted it fresh. He would wait for it to cook, which was usually about 35 to 40 minutes, which was not very fun for our servers, but he wanted when he wanted it, and could get very stern, and so our servers weren't always happy to wait on him at certain times, but in any case, a very delightful person. One of his quotes I remember was, being kind is more important than being right. And I always remembered that because it's just so true. We're gonna add into our meat mixture. This is the base that we made. Got the caramelized onion, the garlic, all the spices and herbs. I let it cool. I took the bay leaves out of it. So this is our magical base. This is what's gonna give us all the flavor. At this point is a good point to test it and to see if you need to adjust the seasoning. Then we've got some breadcrumbs. I would rather leave breadcrumbs out of everything altogether if I had a choice. I'm really particular about breadcrumbs. I don't ever buy them from the store because I don't like the taste of them. They're so easy to make at home. So this is just a combination of some old bread and a little bit of, I took some Japanese bread and dehydrated that, and so I've got some Japanese breadcrumb. There's some cracker in here, some other fresh breadcrumb that I made from some stale bread that I had, a ciabatta loaf. But you could use anything here. I mean, the end result here is that you want to use the best ingredients possible. That's going to yield the best result. So try to, if you can, find the best ingredients, and then you will have a good end result with having done that. So we've got the base, we've got the breadcrumbs, I've got 2 eggs here, and then remember we cut up our herbs. So here's the herbs here. I'm gonna put half in now, and then I'm gonna save half for after. So I'm gonna get all these into the blender, into our mixer here, and then I will show you what it looks like, and then we'll get it popped into the oven. Okay, so we have everything mixed up in the mixer, and this is what your final result's gonna look like. So we're gonna take our base, I'm gonna put it into the pans, and we're gonna put it into the oven, and then I will show you what it looks like when it comes out, and we'll go from there. It's all packed with the meatloaf. One thing I did want to include is that the one that had the bacon on the bottom of the pan, I always put bacon on the top as well, and then let that crisp up, and then we can flip it over and put it back in the oven to get the other side crispy as well. This is the way that Andy Rooney liked it. He liked that crispy bacon. I always made sure that there was extra little pieces of bacon on there for him, so that would be included on his plate. And then also, in addition to having the bacon, he always wanted an extra side of ketchup. We made our own ketchup at the Palmer house. We used farm tomatoes. Another easy thing that you can make and keep on hand, the shelf life on ketchup is quite long, so you can make a big batch and keep it in the refrigerator. In fact, you could even freeze ketchup, and it will keep for quite some time. So in any case, then we're going to go ahead and get these in the oven. At this point too, if you wanted to, you could put, what I like to do and what I will do is put some ketchup on top of the meatloaves. This is going to cook at, we have the oven at 350 now. It's going to make a nice little caramely, sugary, yummy, bubbly goodness on top. And when that comes out of the oven and cools, it almost is like a glaze, like a tomato glaze on top. It's nice and sweet. When you get that spicy bite, you have that sweet, tangy glaze on top. You could also use any other sauce at this point. If you wanted to make your own barbecue sauce, you could put that on top. If you wanted to make your own ketchup, again, super easy to do. But the recipe, again, is so versatile. At this point, too, you could even put your own spin on it. So we'll get these guys in the oven, and then when they come out, we'll get back with you and show you how to some mashed potatoes. These mashed potatoes that I served with the meatloaf, they are just a beautiful pair. The potatoes are airy and whipped and buttery and light. So delicious and such an easy recipe to do. I'll show you some shortcuts on how you can have the best mashed potatoes at the dinner table. And everybody, I guarantee you, will ask you for the recipe. Okay, so we have got our potatoes cut up in the water, all cut up about the same size so that they cook evenly. And into that water, I've added a huge pinch of salt and about 1/4 of an onion chopped up really, really small, fine dice. In the back there on the burner, I've got some whole milk and some butter. And to that, I'm gonna add just a couple cloves of garlic, some rosemary, some other herbs from the garden. I'm just gonna put the whole stem in there, let that cook down and get nice and happy with those herbs so that milk and butter picks up all that herby, yummy, earthy goodness. And then we'll add that to the potatoes. Once the potatoes are done, at this point, starting with cold water, should be about 30 minutes. So we're gonna take those off the stove. Once they're done, strain them out. And then one of the important tips to remember when working with potatoes that I have found to be most successful is work with them when they're warm. You want to add warm milk to warm potatoes to get that really nice fluffy result. You could substitute the whole milk for buttermilk. You could do half and half. You could add cream. In my experience, I've always had the best results with just plain milk and butter. I've used cream before, and it tends to make the potatoes really heavy, and it can get gummy very easy. So the milk is just a lighter option to keep those potatoes nice and light and fluffy. And then one other tip on the potatoes is you never want to have the water start boiling rapidly. You want to keep a low simmer so that the potatoes don't get torn apart in there. Low simmer always on both the potatoes and the butter there, and milk mixture in the back. So we'll get those strained, get the milk on the counter, and get that put together. Okay, so you can see the texture on the potato here. It's been cooking for about 30-35 minutes, and you don't see the onion bits in there. So more than anything, the onion kind of just flavors the water. You're gonna get tiny little bits in there, but you won't even know they're in there. So we went ahead and ran it through a double pass on the ricer. And then this is our milk and butter mixture. Now, if you're using unsalted butter, put your salt in right now. It's easier to get it mixed and incorporated into your milk mixture than it is going to be to add it at the end. You could do it either way, but if you're using a coarser salt like I am, and I love this stuff, the Maldon sea salt flakes. I use this for everything. So it is a bit coarser of a salt, and so if you put it into the liquid, I pinch it up and make it finer, but obviously it's going to dissolve better into a liquid than into a solid. So I've already put the salt in here, and I've drained the herbs. I put black and pink peppercorn in this, as well as some thyme, rosemary. I just threw a clove of garlic in there, and I think that's it on the herbs, but I just grabbed what I could from the garden. Cook that down with the potatoes for about 20 minutes, turn it off, let it steep, so it's got all those flavors in there. So we're gonna go ahead and just add some to our potato mixture here, just a little bit at a time, and you just wanna start whisking it around, getting it incorporated. It thickens up really fast, and right when it starts getting where it's looking like it's too thick to stir around, then add a little bit more of the liquid. And you don't want to over mix this. This is really important because you're going to end up with gummy potatoes and a mess all over your floor. So give it a good couple stirs, and then I'm going to add just a tiny little bit more here. Okay, and at this point I'm going to switch from my whisk to my spatula. And you can see, if you look on top, how creamy the potatoes are, and they have a really nice velvety texture. They're delicious. At this point, taste your potatoes, make sure the seasoning is correct. If you need more salt, add it now, and then I would just put this in a bowl, and then once you're ready to serve it, you can use those same herbs that you had for the meatloaf, and just throw those right on top. That's rosemary, some thyme, I think we had some basil, lemon, thyme, all the same herbs that were in the meatloaf recipe can go right on top of the mashed potatoes. You can incorporate that into them, serve them alongside of the meatloaf. And here's our meatloaf here that has come out. We're going to serve the potatoes on the side of the meatloaf. And for those of you that don't know what a ricer is, this is a imperative tool in making good mashed potatoes. So you can go down, get one of these at Bed Bath & Beyond or on Amazon, I'm sure. They're about 20 bucks. They are worth it. So for the finer option on the ricer, you can see as you turn it, the thing there gets, you know, a finer dice, and that is actually the secret in making, one of the secrets of making very good smooth whipped potatoes. So that's the mashed potatoes recipe. We got that, the meatloaf, and then next we're going to make a simple vinaigrette and dress our greens, and then we'll put together our dish.